Some pay-per-views age like a fine wine. Some age okay, not great, and others age like a fine milk left on the dark side of Mars. Guess which one this was? It was the latter. My God, was it the latter. What the fuck were they thinking putting this show together? I'm Charles Renton with the Retro Review, WCW Uncensored 1996. Taking place in Tupelo, Mississippi, 9,000 people. There's a bit of history with wrestling in Tupelo, Mississippi, and let me tell you right now, doing a small, amount of matches on a card isn't the worst thing in the world, because WrestleMania would take place, WrestleMania 12 that is, would take place in the same month, and they would have, the Iron Man match, the 1 hour match with a little bit of overtime. This match is ordered to continue under sudden death rules. Check out my retro review of that, but they paced the card well. Even though a couple of the matches may have gone on a little bit long and maybe the crowd wasn't invested in everything, overall it paid off. With this, they built this whole thing around the Doomsday cage match, the alliance to end Hulkamania. Hogan and Savage versus about 18 million guys. I'm surprised they didn't use the World War III roster to come out and, attack them. Just bring everybody out there. Everybody get in here. Bring the Super Giant Ninja back. The Yeti didn't work, but they made him a Super Giant Ninja. Man, WCW is in the pits at this point. Even though they were making some money, they were still trying to cater to Hulk Hogan's needs and Hulk Hogan's desires. And you could obviously tell this was ego stroking for him. It did not work at all. And there was an undercard here. But also, the funniest thing about this Doomsday cage match, this three-tiered cage match, three-tiered cage like, they had above a ring, it was in the entranceway. Now, it was 9,000 people in the venue, so yes, you could still technically see it. You could, see this whole apparatus. But anybody that bought ringside seats to possibly see this shit happen, they're like, we could have just stayed at home and saved money instead of, going to where we have to crank our necks and look like that, or crank our necks and look like that, depending on what side of ringside we're on. It was ill-advised. There were a couple other matches that went on way too long, but let's jump right on into it. Shivani Heenan and Dusty on commentary. Eddie Guerrero and Conan competing over the U.S. Championship. Conan was U.S. title holder, and I want to say right now is well wrestled. I think if they had cut a couple minutes off, it would have been okay. It would have been even better. But it was nice to see these two guys gain a chance to open the pay-per-view hot. It was well wrestled. Half the crowd didn't really seem to care. They got into some of the stuff. There were a few rest holds, which makes sense because when the match goes this long, you got to give the wrestlers a chance to get a breather. Eddie did hit a nice splash outside, but then Eddie tries to go almost for her Hurricanrana, but Conan accidentally low blows him, or maybe, inadvertently low blows him, and gets a roll up on Eddie 1, 2, 3. The crowd cheered, I think, mostly because the match was over, which is a shame because the effort was there with these guys, but this would be a recurring theme where matches would go too long to the point where if they had the crowd into them, it wasn't ultimately going to work. So, Mean Gene does the interviews with Colonel Rob Parker and Dick Slater. He thanks Dick for the training. He thanks Dick for helping him train and working with Dick and working up to that moment where Dick was going to help him pound Medusa into submission. Yes, it was going to be Rob Parker versus Medusa. This is what they were going to do with Medusa just months after she came over and dumped the WWE women's title right in the trash on Nitro. That's how they use people that they brought over. By the way, the dark matches, or the, I guess, main event matches, for their Saturday night main event show, were Mr. JL versus Dean Malenko, Jim Duggan versus Big Bubba, Slater with Rob Parker versus Alex Wright, and the Steiners versus Nasty Boys ending in a double countout. The last match ending in a double countout. I think all the others had victors. But yeah, that's what they were doing. That's what they decided to put on the undercard. And I think the longest match might have been the Steiners versus the Nasty Boys. And I get it. You want to hype up people and get them to buy the pay-per-view. But you put that much talent on here, and then some of the people you feature on this card and tell them to go long, no wonder people were getting bored. The Belfast Bruiser, Finlay, in case you were wondering, Fit Finlay, with the weirdest jacket I've seen. He had like a football shoulder pad, and he had spikes on the other thing. I don't understand what the deal was. Versus Lord Steven Regal, with Jeeves, by the way, his little butler guy. And this was hard hitting from the word go. These guys always had really good matches. I mean, they were just willing to just beat the shit out of each other. Regal's nose got busted during this. They were hitting each other really hard. It might as well just been a no DQ match because they were hitting each other repeatedly. They were stomping at each other. They were just ripping at each other. This was actually pretty goddamn good. The problem is the ending kind of killed it. Now, I mean, I get why they did the ending, but they should have done it a few minutes sooner. it felt legit. I mean, Regal was bleeding up. Eaton and Taylor, Earl Robert Eaton and Squire Dave Taylor attacked the Belfast Bruiser, basically to save Regal. But then also, like, it was just to, like, continue the feud because they would have a parking lot brawl or something like that. I think it was the same episode where the Giant beat Ric Flair for the WCW title. The whole point is it was on Nitro and they did that, and actually Bobby Heenan had one funny line, "Wait a minute, that's my car." But this was a really, really good match. The ending sort of kind of killed it. I mean, yeah, if you wanted to continue the feud, I understand, but again, as hard-hitting as it was, ending sort of kind of muted. But then the pay-per-view really goes downhill. We have Colonel Rob Parker, who was, a wrestler in the territories, and he was a manager now, taking on Medusa. And commentary just mocked this, basically. They laughed at it and, laughed at Colonel Rob Parker, who was a manager. Even though he was a wrestler, I think he had a bad back, so he retired and did managing. You're cheering Medusa. Very weird dive outside. Dick pulls Medusa's foot out when she tried to, I believe, a German suplex. And then Parker covers 1, 2, 3. Now, the match only went 3.5 minutes, which is about as long as it should have gone. This was an example of, okay, get in, get out, do your stuff, and embarrass Medusa. I don't know why they wanted to embarrass Medusa, because she could have been much more beneficial here, but it was what it was. I know they continued this afterwards, but it's just... Rob Parker was a very strange character in WCW. And then, I'm going to say right now, I'm a big fan of DDP. I am. I think DDP is a great inspirational story as far as how he got into wrestling at the older age that he did, what he achieved, what he's been able to do with his DDP yoga, or DDPY as he calls it. He's done a lot of really good stuff. And I can rewatch a lot of his matches. I love the variations of the Diamond Cutter. I love the pacing that he puts in his matches. And I love the thought that he puts into them. They had him face the Booty Man, who was Brutus Beefcake in about, I don't know, the 5th gimmick that he's had in WCW. And with Kimberly, the Booty Babe, because, boobs and butts. Am I right, lads? So, the idea with this was they were going to continue DDP and Johnny B. Bad, I believe, but Johnny B. Bad left, Mark Merrow left, and he went to WWE for a pretty big contract and became Wildman Mark Merrow, and they should have used him better. It is actually a shame that they didn't use him. I'm not saying he would have been more than a mid-card guy, but they should have used him a little bit better than they did. But you have got to be fucking kidding me that they thought that the Booty Man gimmick was a good idea, because he was Brother Brudai, then he was the Butcher. He's butchered this friendship, and then he was the Man with No Name, and then he was Zodiac, and then he suddenly decided to just prove that he was a mole in the Dungeon of Doom, and then he's suddenly the Booty Man, and nobody cared about this. This was stupid. This was really stupid. And however I feel personally about, Brutus Beefcake in the ring getting so many opportunities, and I don't even have anything actually against the guy. I don't think he was, a high-level worker outside of his, work when he teamed up with Greg Valentine, but this was a bad idea because nobody cared about this gimmick. Yeah, they popped for Kimberly because she's a beautiful woman, so they're like, oh, finally, something good happening. They had DDP acting all disheveled and everything because he lost all this money, and he's all drunk and stumbling around and everything, and okay, you could make that work. You can make it work in about 8 minutes, maybe 9. Not 16 pissing minutes. Who thought it was a good idea for that to go that long? This was excruciating. And not even because the match was badly worked. Like, when the moves were hit, it was fine. DDP, got some rest holds on. Of course, we got rest holds because naturally you got to extend the match somehow. DDP ends up kissing Kimberly, who was his wife at the time, by the way, and slaps her. Or she slaps him, rather. It would have been weird if he slapped her. She slapped him, and he gets all distracted and then gets hit with the knee, the high knee. You get it, because he's the Booty Man. Ow, I think I caused a ring in my ear. Anyway, this was stupid. The high knee, do you get it? Man, I usually laugh at stupid humor, but that was just really bad. And he won, and DDP said he would quit wrestling. And then he quit, I think, for a little bit, and then won the Battle Bowl ring and started on the ascent. And we got the DDP that we all know and love and also wonder, why does he smile so much? He's a crazy guy. But DDP's done some good shit. So now we get Jimmy Hart saying, hey, this is going to be the last time that I walk Lex Luger to the ring. And he gives him a jacket and he leaves. Okay? And then He says that he did not abandon Sting. He wanted a Chicago street fight, but he got taken out of that because he's got to be part of this Alliance to End Hulkamania match. All right, he will still have Sting's back. We then get Loch Ness with Rey Mysterio's future music. And I know it was music for somebody else. I don't exactly remember that. And he took on the Giant. He was Giant, and by the way, Loch Ness was Giant Haystacks in the UK, and he was also the Loch Ness Monster in R7. He was a big guy. He was an attraction. He couldn't really do all that much. He was also 50, and unfortunately would be diagnosed with cancer and would pass away from lymphoma about 2.5 years after this pay-per-view. It's very unfortunate. This match was ill-advised. Because it was two big guys. It was a guy that was clearly washed. Now, great on Loch Ness for getting a pay-per-view payoff and hopefully, trying to get one last run on WCW television. I don't fault him for that. I don't fault them for bringing him in. This match went 2.5 minutes, and it was bad. Giant was having to bump his ass off. He did a dive into the corner and fell outside. He could have broken his freaking arm and leg. And then he hits a leg drop. 1, 2, 3. It was 2.5 minutes. It was the number one contenders match, by the way. The Giant would face off against Ric Flair on the following Nitro. Ric Flair would throw coffee in the Giant's face, I believe, at least on that one or sometime later, and then would lose the championship to him in late April. So at least something good came out of it. It was actually a pretty good match. This was not good. It really wasn't, and it's a shame to say that, and it really is a shame that Giant Haystacks, a.k.a. Loch Ness, passed away as young as he did. Cancer's a bitch. Lee Marshall talks about the Chicago street fight in Tupelo, Mississippi. I know geography is not everybody's major, and sometimes I fail to understand how some states work and where some cities are, but I'm no geography major, but Chicago and Tupelo, it's a bit of a drive to try and get, from one to the other. So why couldn't you have just called it a street fight? Oh, because the Road Warriors are in it. We get it. The Road Warriors are from Chicago. They took on the makeshift team of Booker T and Sting. Sting and Luger were the tag team champions, by the way. And they would lose a few months later to Harlem Heat when they were facing off against the Steiner brothers and everybody. And then Hall and Nash came in with baseball bats. I remember some of this stuff. Boy, this match would have been good if it had been 12 minutes. It was 28 to 29 minutes. That is unbearable. That is unfathomable. And that is unforgivable. I get the doing long matches and trying to make it where, okay, it's telling a good story and everything. Sure, what's going to happen with this makeshift team? If Booker T helps Sting win, then they'll get a tag title shot. Cool. You could accomplish that in 12 minutes. Maybe even 14. Hard-hitting, chairs, all that. Whoever thought this was supposed to be 30 goddamn minutes should have been slapped. This was embarrassing. Not Hall, but Hawk and Animal could not do enough to carry a 30-minute match when there wasn't enough, material to keep a match going for 30 goddamn minutes without repeating stuff. They did some chair action. They did use an extension cord at one point, or the power cord. Good power moves. And Booker T was hitting some good stuff, and, even at one point hit the axe kick like a minute in, but no, that wasn't the finish. And they did the split camera thing, by the way. When often all four guys were in the same goddamn shot, so why are you wasting the time splitting the goddamn camera? Who the hell did this? Seriously, I would like to know who was in charge of the goddamn production at this point. Because whoever was, I understand the idea of splitting the cameras. They did it with Nasty Boys and Public Enemy when I think it was at Super Brawl. And they did other matches where you split it so you can see what's going on. If they're not in the same shot, if some people are in the ring and some people are on the stage or near the entranceway, that's fine. They were in the same area. It's not that big of a venue. 9,000 people, I'm not saying it's anything to sneeze at. Great that a company was able to draw that. I don't think we're going to get that any time soon, especially with how wrestling's going now. But anyway, this was excruciatingly bad. And not even because of the talent involved. They just got to the point where after 8 to 10 minutes, they're like, okay, wait, this still needs to go. Fine, let's repeat the stuff and let's just let's just use more chairs. Let's just use stuff. Sting, by the way, just leaves ringside at one point. There's chairs, there's tables and stuff like that at ringside. He's going to get something. He's going to go get the deadliest weapon. He's going to get a broom. Did nobody want to just put a broom there? Did nobody think that, hey, maybe we should get a broom and do some action with the broom so Sting doesn't have to leave and, leave the match for about 90 seconds. He went and got a broom. Why? Why did he need to leave ringside to do that? Just say to a fan, hey, I need your chair. Boom, boom, here's your chair back. It's got the indent of a wrestler's head in it. Sell it on eBay. I don't even think eBay was a thing. But Sting had the foresight to understand that things could work. As far as real estate, he's made a lot of money. Somehow, he's made a lot of money despite not turning in very good work for the last 15 years. And I love Sting. He used a broom. I can't get over that. And Booker and Animal leave to the back, and then Luger's upset because he's getting ready. Booker and Animal are attacking each other. Animal accidentally knocks Luger into a trash can and gets all upset and attacks Animal. Stevie Ray joins in because apparently he's like, well, hell, I'll help Luger. I'm not doing anything. I got this feud with the Road Warriors somehow. And they tape and handcuff Animal to this, giant metal post, which actually you need those to hold up a goddamn arena, so I get it. And then Booker gets back in the ring. Stevie ends up hitting Hawk with a chair while the referee is distracted. In a Chicago street fight where he's seen all this stuff and seen Sting leave to get a goddamn broom. And then Booker covers 1, 2, 3. That could have been accomplished in 14 minutes. And it took twice that. Embarrassing. Not because of the talent involved, but just because of how it was laid out. And then we get the Doomsday cage match. It's 3 levels. In the entranceway. So yeah, everybody's got to crank their necks. Or everybody, that's staring, straight ahead at the ring that's staring at the entranceway has got to be like, hey, maybe we should all stand up. Well, the real audience, please stand up. Okay, so it's Hogan and Savage versus Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ming, the Barbarian, Lex Luger, Kevin Sullivan. And it was supposed to be, Brian Pillman was supposed to be involved, but they were doing that whole thing of him being in ECW and then getting a contract with WWE after the unfortunate Humvee accident. But they had Z Gangster, Mr. Lister, as I'm just going to call him, from Friday, and the President in The Fifth Element, and he was Zeus. And it's a shame he did pass away. Apparently a really, really nice guy. And he was in this playing the same character, but they just couldn't call him Zeus because it was trademarked. And the Ultimate Solution. He was first called the Final Solution. Then they said, wait, that's bad. Let's call him the Ultimate Solution. Yeah, that's better. That's a way to... Anyway. They joined later, by the way, because they couldn't be barred to show up, or they just wanted to pace this out, or they realized, hey, 25 minutes, and Hogan needs to stroke his ego for all 25 minutes. 3-tiered cage match. So, I understand what they were trying to do as far as having this alliance and everything, but here's the problem with it. 3-tiered cage. So you had the top cage. Okay, you had Hogan and Savage battling Flair and Arn. Okay, they do all their stuff and everything. Arn's in like a full, goddamn, he's in full sweater, full pants. I guess maybe he didn't want to get caught, in the cage, which makes sense. Now, they had people, up there on these, on this little bit of scaffolding, trying to make sure if anything bad happened that it would be, everything would be okay. Also, the scaffolding acted as a way for everybody to be able to get up and down the cage if they needed to. Because they had to get up into the cage, and then get into the second cage, and then be at the bottom also, because there was a ring down there, and whoever set this up deserved to be slapped. Said it before, and I'll say it again, because this pay-per-view was so abysmal. The uncensored concept of just doing whatever, and just, doing anything, this made the King of the Road match look, bearable by comparison. And that's really sad, because the King of the Road match was absolutely dog shit. So... The crowd was booing. I mean, yeah, they would later cheer Hogan because they were trying to do something, but there was powder stuff being dropped in. There were so many boos because everybody's like, we can't see anything because it's at the entranceway because nobody thought that, to put this cage up, maybe in a different way or not do a Doomsday cage match. Maybe just do a cage match and do it without a roof. And then people could just, or maybe, Z Gangster and Ultimate Solution, or, the guy that played Bane in Batman and Robin could just rip that out. I don't even feel good saying the solution part. Ripping that out. And let's hear it for the Ultimate Solution. And if you get it, you get it. Arn and, Flair are up there. And then Hogan and Savage drop down. But there's this trapdoor thing. And they're trapped. They can't get out and be in the match. They're eliminated. And then there's a split cage. So there's Ming and Barbarian. And then Hogan and Savage just beat him up a little bit and then walk through. And then, they do the power stuff and everything. Sullivan's there and Luger's there. And then they do that. And then they get down to the ring. The ring at the bottom. And they do all this stuff. This is taking forever. They got out of the cage. Hogan and Sullivan go to the ring. The actual ring, where people paid to watch a wrestling pay-per-view take place in front of them. And they are there for like a minute. Hogan hits Luger with a backpack at one point when they go back towards the steel cage. Because why wouldn't you hit somebody with a goddamn backpack? It's like maybe there's a med kit in there. Maybe it's like Doom. The good Doom, not the 2005 Dwayne The Rock Johnson or Rock the Dwayne Johnson. So they go back to the ring. We get Hogan and Sullivan, Luger and Savage. And Luger and Savage have been having matches since Halloween Havoc 95. And there have been all this dissension, so okay, I get it. But Luger's either aligned with Jimmy Hart or not aligned with Jimmy Hart. You have Woman and Miss Elizabeth there, and they're at the ring, and what's Woman thinking looking at this? Like, she'd meet her ultimate Doomsday a little bit later. So anyway, chair action, and then Z-Gangster and Ultimate Solution finally show up. They have sloppy fighting because neither guy was very good in the ring. And I'm not knocking them as people, but they were big guys. Everybody audibly gasped like, these big guys. And then, wait, we're going to start booing because they really can't do anything. They go back to the lower cage with the big guys. They're battling them. This is taking forever. Why is this taking so goddamn long? And then the Booty Man shows up and gives them frying pans. Just to cement the fact that this pay-per-view was absolutely ridiculous. And then Luger is going to punch Hogan or Savage, I think, with a loaded glove. But he stops, Savage drops, and then he hits Flair anyway. It was either supposed to be like, Luger was, aligning with Hogan and Savage, or they were like, hey, Savage dropped too soon, and damn it, Luger missed his cue. Luger was kind of an idiot in the ring, especially by this point, so it makes sense either way. And Savage pins him. This was embarrassing. This was embarrassing. I watched this just to see if I could get some laughs out of it, and I kind of did. But this is proof that, maybe some stuff in modern wrestling really isn't all that bad, because there may be some bad stuff in modern wrestling, WWE, AEW, New Japan, but my God, they thought with this, with this talent level, they could do some show like this and people wouldn't shit on it. Oh, they did. Boy, did they ever. Anyway, agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.